All right. So Penn State women's basketball did not make the tournament. Um, Not surprising, in a lot of ways, particularly if you paid attention to this team. Um, but I was thinking about it a little bit and looking at the numbers, looking at who got in, particularly Maryland getting in over Penn State primarily, I think was be the most direct way to say it. Um, I think two things can be true. I think Penn State got hosed, and I also think Penn State didn't do enough to get in to solidify their chance of getting in the tournament. Um, and you look at that 5 game stretch of losses or 6 game stretch of losses there. 4 of them were against tournament teams and 2 of them weren't. And I think if they win either of those two, they're certainly much better in the conversation. You look at if they go and beat USC, they're in overtime earlier. USC's, I believe, a 2 or 3 seed. Um, that's another opportunity that they kind of missed. There was an Ohio State loss in overtime that they missed on. So that's why I say you could make the case that Penn State did get screwed out of the tournament. I don't necessarily think they did. They were solidly a bubble team, and that's exactly where they were, and they just happened to be on the other side of the wrong side of the bubble. If you care about that program.
Yeah, I think you're right on both pieces, right? You can make that argument, but I think that it's easier to make the argument that they didn't do enough. They didn't do enough at the right times. And at the end of the season, I'm not convinced that they're a tournament team. Like they're without Tay Valladay, they're a different team. They've done some other stuff. They've won some games, but I don't know that they're going to be tournament. They're not going to beat NCAA tournament teams with the roster as it is now. It just doesn't feel like it. They might play exciting games. They may win an exciting game or two, maybe if they'd have gotten there. And yeah, Maryland getting in didn't take Penn State's spot. They took that other Big Ten spot that Penn State maybe could have had. And Penn State wasn't going to get a second win in the tournament, the conference tournament, the way it showed up because they got Iowa. So they needed one of those regular season games when they were sliding against one of the 2 teams that should have beaten in that slot, in that stretch.
Well, in Maryland kind of almost solidified it or took out any question when they beat Ohio State in the Big 10 tournament. There were no more questions, about that. I think what is, and we talked about this a little bit last week, and I've been thinking about it more ever since you brought it up. Is it really just feels like a big missed opportunity that I don't know if they're going to get next year, just with the roster turnover that they have. I think they lose what, at least 2 of their top scorers, between McKenna and Ashley. And I think, I don't know. It will now be 11 years between if they make the tournament next year, it'll be 11 years between the time they last made the tournament. And that's a damn shame because this was the basketball program in the state of, maybe not in the state of Pennsylvania, but at least women's wise, like everybody was tuned in and plugged into Lady Lions basketball. And I really don't know if nowadays the average Penn State fan could name you or cares or wants to tune in or would tune in to women's basketball, even though we're in this like tremendous boom time of women's basketball primarily.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen Thursday night when the Lady Lions host a game in terms of attendance. I mean, I don't think it's going to be like people are knocking down the doors to get in, even though they're playing at home. And I can see the rationale, right? Like, honestly, I think the part of the rationale, and I don't know if Coach Keeger would say this in her media availability this week or not, but part of it is this team's pretty good, maybe almost NCAA tournament caliber good. They're probably better than a lot of teams that are in the WBIT that they're in for the postseason. So get the wins now, man. Pile up a bunch of wins in the postseason so you have something to point to if you struggle next season. Because I don't see next season being a repeat of this season in terms of success. Like I just think if it is, it's going to be hard fought because the conference gets stronger. You lose a lot in terms of roster turnover. You get younger. They got some talent coming in. They got some talent that's already here that hasn't played, but it doesn't get easier. So that's the logic of playing the second tournament this year. Makes sense. Plus, the business model changed on those. They don't have to pay to host them. It's not like the WNIT that the NCAA is actually footing the bill for this. So it's not costing you as much. But I think you got to get the wins now because I don't think they're coming as easily next year, and it's going to be tough.
Where we're at with women's basketball versus men's basketball, the NIT does mean like 2% of what any postseason, like a trip to like winning the NIT, right? Like that means it at least something you can hang your program out and say, yeah, like we didn't have a truly successful
Mm.
year. We didn't make the tournament, but we did win the NIT. I don't know if average fan and like this feels very like niche. Like we were talking about Lady Lions basketball, but like I don't know if an average fan cares that they're in this tournament. I don't know if they win, if that will get your attention because that's the like conundrum. Like there very much is a big dance and nothing else with women's basketball comparatively to men's basketball. I at least the way we this feels right now, kind of at the moment we're in women's basketball.